I took care of my grandmother for years. Then my cousin took everything she left behind. I was the only one who took care of my grandmother in her final years. While the rest of the family moved on with their lives, I was the one who stayed. I made sure she had her medicine. I took her to her doctor's appointments. I sat with her, listened to her stories, and made sure she never felt alone. And then, after she passed, my cousin swooped in and took everything. "Grandma wanted me to have the house," she said with a smug smile. I blinked. "What?" "She changed the will. It's all mine now. The house, the savings, everything." And when I asked why, my cousin just shrugged. I guess she thought I deserved it more. I stood there, shocked. I had given up years of my life to take care of my grandmother, and now I was being tossed aside like I never mattered. My cousin thought I'd just accept it. She thought I had no way to fight back, but if she thought she could steal my grandmother's legacy and get away with it, she was in for a rude awakening. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. For years, I was the only one who stayed. While my family lived their lives, I was the one taking care of Grandma. I made sure she had her medication on time. I drove her to appointments. I handled the groceries, the bills, the endless little tasks that came with making sure an elderly woman could live comfortably. And I never complained. I loved my grandmother. She raised me when my own parents were too busy to bother. She was the only person in my life who had ever truly been there for me. So, when she got older, when she needed someone, it was never even a question. I was there. The rest of the family, they barely showed up. My cousin Emily lived a few states away, but that didn't stop her from calling once in a while to ask Grandma for money. My aunts and uncles sent the occasional holiday card, but were otherwise nowhere to be found. It was always me. Then, one day, Grandma's health took a turn. She wasn't the same. She got confused easily, forgot things she'd known for years. She had always been sharp, always full of wisdom, but now she needed help with things she never would have before. I took on even more responsibility, becoming her caretaker full-time. And then, she passed. I was devastated. I had spent so much time with her, doing everything I could, but in the end, time always wins. I barely had time to grieve before my cousin Emily swooped in. She didn't come to help with the funeral arrangements. She didn't offer condolences. She came for the will. "Grandma left everything to me," she announced, her voice smug. I blinked. "What?" She shrugged, like this was just a casual conversation. "She changed the will. The house, the savings, everything is mine now." I felt my stomach drop. "That doesn't make sense," I said, shaking my head. "She told me she wanted me to have the house." Emily just smirked. "Guess she changed her mind." I stared at her, feeling something inside me snap. After everything I had done, after years of making sure Grandma had everything she needed, Emily was walking away with it all. And the worst part? She didn't deserve a damn thing. She thought I'd just accept it. She thought I had no way to fight back, but if she thought she could steal my grandmother's legacy and get away with it, she was in for a rude awakening. I stood there, stunned. Emily had barely been around for Grandma. She didn't change her diapers. She didn't stay up late comforting her when the pain was too much. She didn't fight with insurance companies or spend sleepless nights researching medications. And yet, she was taking everything. I clenched my fists. "I don't believe you," Emily scoffed. "Oh, please. You think I'd lie about this?" Yes, I did. But I didn't have proof, not yet. "Let me see the will," I said, my voice like steel. She smirked. "Fine." She pulled out a copy, waving it in front of me like it was a winning lottery ticket. "Grandma left everything to me," she said again, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. "I'm sure she appreciated all the help you gave her, though." I felt my stomach twist. Something wasn't right. I knew my grandmother. I knew her heart. There was no way she would just erase me from her will. Unless someone changed it for her. I grabbed the paper, my eyes scanning it, and then I saw it. The date. The will had been updated only a few months before Grandma passed, right around the time her memory started slipping. I felt my blood boil. "When did she sign this?" I asked, my voice calm but deadly. Emily shrugged. "Oh, I don't know. I wasn't there when she did it." Liar. She had rushed in and manipulated Grandma when she was at her weakest, when she was confused, when she didn't fully understand what she was signing. I looked at Emily, and for the first time, I saw her for exactly what she was. A thief. A liar. Someone who would steal from her own family without a second thought. She thought I'd just accept it. She thought I had no way to fight back. But if she thought I was going to roll over and let her take everything Grandma built, she was about to learn exactly who she was dealing with. I held the will in my hands, reading it over and over again, my eyes locked on the date. Just a few months before Grandma passed, right when she started forgetting things. Right when she began struggling to recognize faces, missing appointments, repeating conversations. And now, Emily had the perfect excuse. She changed her mind, she had said, her voice dripping with fake innocence. Number? Grandma didn't change her mind. Emily changed it for her. I took a slow breath, trying to keep my anger in check. Who was Grandma's lawyer? I asked, my voice deceptively calm. Emily's smirk twitched. I'm not sure. I think she found a new one toward the end. A new one. Of course. She had made sure Grandma was isolated, made sure she wasn't thinking clearly when she signed that document. I narrowed my eyes. Where was she living when this was updated? Emily shifted uncomfortably. Still at home, I think. She didn't even bother to hide the lie, because I knew for a fact that during those months Grandma had been in and out of hospitals. Some days, she didn't even remember what year it was, and now, conveniently, she had somehow managed to rewrite her entire will. I wasn't buying it. I want to see the original will, I said, folding my arms. Emily scoffed. Why does it matter? This one is what counts now. I gave her a slow, knowing smile. Because if Grandma was of sound mind, she would have told me about this. She would have made sure I knew she was changing it, but she didn't. Emily rolled her eyes. So what? You think you're going to prove something? You think you can change it back? I took a step closer, watching as she flinched. If you manipulated an old woman into signing away everything while she was sick, I said, my voice low, then yeah, I think I can. Emily laughed, but it was forced. Good luck with that, she said, flipping her hair. You're wasting your time. I didn't answer, because I already knew what I had to do next. She thought she had sealed the deal. She thought she had won. But if she thought I was just going to let her steal everything Grandma left behind, she was in for a rude awakening. I spent the next few days doing nothing but digging. Emily thought she had covered her tracks. She thought I'd just give up and accept that she had somehow walked away with everything my grandmother had worked for. She underestimated me. First, I went through Grandma's old paperwork, bills, medical records, any evidence that could prove she wasn't in the right state of mind when Emily magically got her to sign over everything. And guess what? I found it. A hospital report from the exact same month the new will was written. Patient experiencing severe cognitive decline, memory impairment progressing, recommended assisted living. My blood boiled. Emily had taken advantage of Grandma when she was at her weakest. But I wasn't done yet. Next, I called our family's original lawyer. I haven't spoken to your grandmother in years, he told me. She was always very clear about her wishes. She wanted you to have the house. The savings were supposed to be split evenly. I clenched my jaw. Then why would she suddenly change everything? He hesitated. That doesn't sound like her. Are you sure she signed it willingly? That was all I needed to hear. Who handled her estate before she passed? I asked. He gave me the name of a new lawyer, one I had never even heard of before. I looked him up immediately. And what did I find? He had been involved in multiple cases where elderly clients mysteriously changed their wills under questionable circumstances. And Emily? She had hired him. I sat back, my pulse pounding. Emily thought she was smart. She thought she had beaten me, but she had made one mistake. She left a trail. And now? I was going to use it to destroy everything she stole. Emily had done everything to make it seem like Grandma had willingly given her everything. But now, I had proof that something wasn't right. A shady lawyer. A will signed when Grandma's memory was failing. A medical report confirming she wasn't in the right state of mind. This wasn't just greed. This was manipulation. And I was about to rip her entire scheme apart. I called a probate attorney the next morning. I have reason to believe my cousin manipulated my grandmother into changing her will, I told him, laying out everything I had found. He listened carefully before speaking. This is serious. If we can prove that your grandmother was mentally unfit when she signed that will, we can contest it. Do you have any documentation of her condition around that time? I smiled. I have medical records, and I have proof that the lawyer involved has done this before. Silence. Then, you have a case. Those 4 words lit a fire in me, because Emily thought she had sealed the deal. She thought she had locked me out forever. She had no idea I was already tearing down everything she built. I wasted no time. We filed a formal challenge to the will. Emily was about to find out that what she stole, she was never meant to keep. The moment the will contest was filed, Emily lost it. She called me in a fury, her voice shaking with anger. "Are you serious? You're actually trying to fight this? You're wasting your time." I leaned back in my chair, completely calm. "Am I? Because it looks to me like you took advantage of an elderly woman with dementia to steal her entire estate." She let out a bitter laugh. "You have no proof." I smirked. "That's funny because I have medical records, a hospital report, and a history of your lawyer pulling shady deals like this." Silence. I could practically hear her brain scrambling for a way out. Then she scoffed. "Fine. You want to waste your money on lawyers? Go ahead. You'll never win." And with that, she hung up. But she was wrong. Within a week, she got a legal notice. The court was officially reviewing the will. I wasn't just making empty threats, this was happening. I submitted everything: Grandma's medical history, statements from doctors, even testimonies from nurses who had seen firsthand how confused she had been in her last months. It was clear that she had not been in the right state of mind to make legal decisions. Emily tried everything to fight back. She claimed Grandma had been perfectly fine. She said Grandma had told her, "I want you to have everything," but had zero proof to back it up. Meanwhile, my evidence piled up, and then Emily made one fatal mistake. She had to provide documents proving that Grandma had willingly changed her will. And when those documents came in, the signature on the new will didn't match her previous legal documents. Forgery. She had been so desperate to steal everything that she didn't just manipulate Grandma, she faked her signature. The moment that was revealed, the entire case shifted. Emily wasn't just a greedy opportunist anymore. She was a fraud, and the court wasn't going to let her get away with it. The moment the signature discrepancy was discovered, Emily's entire case started falling apart. The court ordered a handwriting analysis, and sure enough, the results came back in my favor. The expert confirmed that the signature on the updated will didn't match Grandma's usual handwriting. It was an obvious forgery. Emily had backed herself into a corner, and now she had no way out. She tried to deny everything. She swore up and down that Grandma had signed it herself, that maybe her handwriting had changed because she was getting older. But the experts weren't buying it, neither was the judge. The more she talked, the more desperate she sounded. Her once smug, confident attitude had turned into frantic excuses. And the people who had been willing to believe her at first, they weren't looking at her the same way anymore. Then came the real blow, a subpoena for the shady lawyer who handled the will. When he was questioned under oath, he folded almost immediately. He admitted that Emily had been the one who approached him, that she had insisted on updating the will without involving any other family members. He had overlooked some minor inconsistencies because she had paid him well. The moment those words left his mouth, the case was done. Emily had been caught red-handed. I watched as the judge tore into her. He called her actions deceptive and malicious, pointing out that she had deliberately taken advantage of an elderly woman in decline. He declared the fraudulent will null and void, reinstating the previous will, the one where Grandma had left the house to me. The look on Emily's face when she heard the ruling? Priceless. But it didn't end there. Because of the forgery, the court opened an investigation into possible fraud charges. The judge even warned her that there could be criminal consequences. The cousin who had thought she had stolen everything without a trace, she was now facing the possibility of real legal trouble. Emily had walked in thinking she was untouchable. She had stolen, lied, and manipulated her way into getting everything she wanted. But in the end, she lost everything. Emily was in full panic mode. The moment the judge declared the will fraudulent, she knew she had lost everything she schemed for. The house, the savings, the inheritance, all of it was slipping through her fingers. But worse than that, she now had legal trouble on the horizon. The court's decision to investigate her for fraud wasn't just a slap on the wrist. If they found enough evidence, she could be facing real criminal charges. I thought she would go into hiding, that she would keep her head down and hope for the best. But instead, she did something even more pathetic. She tried to negotiate with me. She called me late at night, her voice shaking, trying to sound calm, but failing miserably. "Look, this has all gotten out of hand," she started. "We don't need to make things worse than they already are. Maybe we can find a compromise." I nearly laughed. A compromise? Now she wanted to negotiate? Now, after she had spent months acting like I was nothing, like I didn't deserve even a fraction of what Grandma had left behind? Now, after she had forged a will to steal everything? I leaned back, letting the silence stretch for a moment before I answered. "Emily, you're only saying this because you got caught." She let out a nervous laugh. No, no, I just think this has gone too far. I mean, come on, we're family. That was it, the final straw. I had spent years taking care of Grandma, doing everything I could to make sure she was happy, healthy, and comfortable. And Emily? She didn't care about family. She only cared about what she could take from them. I kept my voice calm. If you really cared about family, you wouldn't have stolen from me. You wouldn't have stolen from Grandma. You did this to yourself, she snapped. Oh, come on, you really think this is all my fault? Grandma wanted me to have everything. She trusted me. I didn't even need to argue. The court had already proven her wrong. I simply sighed. Then why did you need to forge her signature? Silence. That was the moment she realized there was no way out. No bargaining, no guilt tripping, no more playing the victim. She had destroyed herself. I hope it was worth it, I said before hanging up. And with that, I was done with her for good. Emily didn't call again after that. I think she finally realized there was nothing left to say. No excuse she could come up with that would magically make everything go away. But even though she had lost the case, she wasn't off the hook yet. The fraud investigation was still ongoing, and from what I heard, she was getting desperate. Word spread quickly through the family that she was trying to play the victim, spinning some ridiculous story about how she was tricked into changing the will and that she didn't understand what she was signing. It was pathetic. No one was buying it, not after the way she had paraded around like she had won the lottery, not after all the smug little comments she had made when she thought she had gotten away with it. Meanwhile, I finally started the process of reclaiming what was rightfully mine. The court's ruling meant that everything in Grandma's original will was restored, including the house. But getting it back wasn't as simple as just walking in and claiming it. Emily had already moved in and had spent months treating it like her own personal palace. She had changed things, thrown out furniture, even rented out a room to one of her friends. She acted like she would be there forever. Now, she had 2 weeks to get out. I could tell she was trying to stall, trying to find some loophole that would let her hold on to something, but legally, there was nothing she could do. The law was on my side now, and for once, she had no power. When the day finally came for her to leave, I made sure to be there to watch her pack up her things and walk out of the house that never should have been hers in the first place. She barely looked at me as she shoved her suitcases into her car, her face twisted in barely contained anger. I could see it in her eyes. She wanted to scream, to argue, to make me feel guilty for taking back what she had stolen. But she knew better. She had already lost everything, and the more she fought, the worse it would get for her. As she slammed the trunk shut, she finally spoke. "You really think this makes you better than me?" Her voice was bitter, full of resentment. I didn't even blink. "No, Emily. Doing the right thing makes me better than you." She had nothing to say to that. She just scoffed, got in her car, and drove away without another word. And just like that, she was gone. I stood in the doorway for a long time, letting the moment sink in. The house felt different now. It wasn't just a building or a piece of property. It was home again. I had fought for this, for Grandma's legacy, for everything she had worked for. And I had won. Emily had spent months gloating, acting like she was untouchable. She thought she could take whatever she wanted and that no one would stop her. But in the end, she was the one left with nothing. The day Emily left was the day I finally felt peace. I walked through the house, taking in everything she had tried to erase. Grandma's old chair in the corner, the framed pictures she had stuffed away in a closet, the little things that made this place feel like home. She had tried to replace it all, to make it her own, but in the end, she had failed. The house was mine again, and no amount of scheming could change that. I took my time restoring everything. I put back the decorations Grandma had loved, fixed up the rooms that Emily had trashed, and finally let myself feel the weight of what had happened. This wasn't just about money or property. This was about justice, about making sure Grandma's wishes were respected, about making sure someone like Emily never got the chance to do something like this again. And Emily? She tried to disappear for a while, but I still heard bits and pieces about her through family. She was broke, struggling to find a place to stay after burning every bridge she had. The fraud investigation was still looming over her, and from what I heard, she was terrified of what might happen next. She had spent months acting like she was untouchable, walking around with that smug little grin, thinking she had won. But now she had nothing. No house, no inheritance, no reputation. She tried to reach out once. I got a text out of the blue. "I know we have our differences, but we're still family. Can we just put this behind us?" I stared at the message for a long time before finally responding. "Family doesn't steal from each other, Emily. We're done." I blocked her number after that. I didn't need an apology, didn't need her fake excuses. I just needed her gone. And with that, I moved on. The house felt warm again, like it was finally mine. I knew Grandma would have been proud, knew she would have wanted me to fight for what was right, and I did. I fought, I won, and most importantly, I didn't let someone else take away what she built. Emily had spent months thinking she had stolen everything from me, but in the end, she was the one left with nothing. Greedy people always think they'll get away with it. They think no one will notice, that they can take whatever they want without consequences. But the truth, they always get caught in the end. Have you ever had to deal with a family betrayal like this? How did it turn out? Drop your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And if you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe.